Our recording is all set and we're ready to get started. Like the agenda says, first we're going to talk about online versus offline mode using eSignal Wizard data. eSignal Wizard data is our own data source that we created here at eSignal. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to Advanced Get, and everyone should see a blank Advanced Get screen at this point. What I want to point out on this Advanced Get screen is down in the lower right-hand corner, you'll see two green lights, one saying OK and the other one saying DM OK. That is an indication that I am in online mode with the eSignal Wizard data. What online mode means is that I'm connected to the servers over at eSignal. And what I can do with that is I can draw in 20-minute delayed data for even today's prices. So today being the 24th, if I were to look at this at 12 o'clock Eastern Time, I would have a bar for data up through 11:40 Eastern Time of that day. That's a benefit of having the eSignal Wizard data. When you're in offline mode, you're only going to be able to see data up through yesterday. What that means for people who have other data sources, if you're running Metastock or CSI or any of the other data sources out there, they give you data up through yesterday. With the eSignal Wizard data, you're able to get a partial bar for today. So that's what you're going to notice if you're using eSignal Wizard data. That's what these two green lights are in the lower right-hand corner. If you're not using eSignal Wizard data, you're not going to see these two green lights. Just want you to be familiar with that and what that means over there. I'll show you the difference between those two as we get into having a little bit more charts on the screen. We're going to jump into how to actually load a chart here with Advanced Get. This is a blank gray screen, and this is the point that a lot of new users get to, and they wind up giving tech support a call at this point, wondering what to do next. So we're going to go ahead and operate off of that what's next question here and learn how to open up a new chart. There's actually several ways to open the new chart. We can go to the File menu and select New Chart. You see it right there in the menu. Out to the right of where it says New Chart, you see it says Control-N. That's actually a shortcut way of going to open a new chart as well. So you can go to File and New Chart. You can select Control-N, or underneath the File menu, there's an icon that looks like a bar, an open, high, low, close bar, and you can select that as well. Any one of those three options will bring up the Issues window, which is what you should see in the middle of the screen right now. You'll see where the symbol can be typed in, and again, if you're not in online mode with the eSignal Wizard data, this symbol area will not be there. The reason the symbol is there now is you're not limited just to the data that you download to your hard drive each night when you have the eSignal Wizard data. You actually have access to over 200,000 symbols that eSignal has to offer. If you don't download the symbols data to your hard drive each night, you're still able to retrieve that data through your connection to the eSignal servers, and that'll pull up the data on your screen. Again, that data is not downloaded to your hard drive, it's just data that's available through the eSignal servers. So everybody who uses the Advanced Get program has this list of symbols down here at the bottom. We're going to go ahead and highlight a symbol and just type MSFT on my keyboard, and it's going to jump to Microsoft Corporation in the list. With that selected, I'm going to go ahead and load a chart of Microsoft. Before we load the chart up, I'm going to go ahead and go over a few more things that you'll see in this window. In the middle at the top here, you'll see where it says bars. The default selection in Advanced Get is 300, meaning that it's going to load 300 bars of whatever time frame it is that we're loading. Just underneath the bars, you'll notice that we're loading a daily chart. It's a daily period, so the bars will be 300, and each bar will represent one day. So we'll have 300 days trading on our chart. Down here at the bottom, it says End Date. For most intents and purposes, unless you're told to do differently by someone in technical support, you should have Find Last Date checked. What that's going to do is seek out all of the data that you have in each data file and load a complete data file. Without Find Last Date checked, you notice that you have access to this End Date just above it. You can change the date. Let's say if we changed it to September 21st, when we hit the load button at that point, it would load data only up through September 21st. the rest of the data would be eliminated from that chart. So it's always a good idea to have find last date checked. That's all we're going to go over at this time in this issue window. Just know that you can have 300 bars loaded, and the period that we have here is daily. So we're going to have 300 bars on our chart, each bar representing 1 day's trading. Now go ahead and hit the load button, and up pops a chart of Microsoft Corporation up through today. I have a bar for today, even though I haven't downloaded today's data as of yet, because again, we're connected to the eSignal servers, and we've got the data manager running there to pull in the bars for today. So that's how you can load a new chart. I'm going to go ahead and close that chart down, and I'm just going to show you that going to File and New Chart brings up the same issue list. I can hit Load and brings up the same chart. Or you can't see me doing this, but just believe me, I'm doing a Control-N, and it brings up the issue list as well. And I just need to hit the Load button, and there's my new chart. Now that I have a chart of Microsoft Corporation, I can do several things with it. I don't have it the entire Get window right now. I can go to any edge of the chart, and you'll notice that my cursor changes to arrows pointing in opposite directions. I can hold my left mouse button down when those arrows are present, and I can stretch the chart to fill up as much of the screen as I'd like it to. So there's Microsoft stretched all the way to the edges of the inside here. I can also use the 3 buttons in the upper right-hand corner. The middle button will maximize the chart, so it's taking up the maximum space in the Get window. So this is a maximized chart of Microsoft. Now that I have a chart up, I don't have to keep going back to that issue list if I want to look at a different symbol. We're now looking at the Microsoft Corporation chart. If I wanted to look at a chart of AOL, I need only to type AOL on my keyboard and hit the Enter button. And that changes my chart now to AOL. To go back to Microsoft, I just type MSFT on my keyboard and hit Enter, and I'm now back to the Microsoft chart. That's what we call a quick load. I'll go ahead and type IBM on the chart, and you'll notice that that little window that pops up says quick load on it. And if I were to hit Enter now, it would change this existing chart over to IBM. I'm going to add a little bit to that, in that the symbol is not the only thing that we can change using the quick load. We can also change the time period of the chart. So we're looking at Microsoft Daily right now. If I want to look at IBM Weekly, I can type IBM and then type a comma W. And when I hit Enter, this changes to an IBM Weekly chart. You'll note in the upper left-hand corner it says IBM comma Weekly. So now we know that we're at an IBM Weekly chart. I'm going to go ahead and take this a step further again. I'll type AOL, and this time I'll do comma 60, which is going to change us to a 60-minute chart. But something else that we can change is the number of bars that we have loaded. Just to the right of the P as in Paul button, we have a button that looks like a bracket. Now go ahead and put the bracket in there, and you'll see that just to the right of the 60 in the quick load menu. Again, that button is located just to the right of the letter P as in Paul, and I can say 500. So when I hit Enter, this is going to change us to an AOL 60-minute chart with 500 bars. In the lower right-hand corner of each chart is a number in blue. Right here it says number 192. That lets us know how many bars we have loaded at any given time. When I hit the Enter button here, you see that we're an AOL 60-minute chart, and down here in the lower right-hand corner you'll see that we have 500 bars loaded. So that's how we can maneuver with the quick load. I'll go ahead and change us back to MSFT, and I'll go back to comma D for daily, and I'll set us back to the default 300 bars, and hit Enter. And we're back to our Microsoft Daily chart. As I've gone through that, I heard that several other people have joined our conversation here. I'm going to go ahead and switch back over and unmute everybody who joins in. For some reason, it mutes everyone when they first jump in. I don't see anybody asking any questions in the chat. Does anybody who's involved in the conference call have any questions at this time? Okay, that's not a problem. Okay, that's not a problem. Sure. Okay, nobody has any questions at this time, so I'm going to go ahead and, yes. Okay, the question was how do you trigger the quick load? You don't have to do anything other than start typing on your keyboard. If I want to change to IBM, I just hit the I button, and you see quick load pop up on your screen. So anytime you have a chart highlighted in Advanced Get, all you have to do is begin typing on your keyboard. And I can type IBM, and we'll go to weekly chart, and we'll say just 100 bars, and hit enter. And there's our IBM weekly with 100 bars. So again, I just have to start typing on my keyboard, and I can type MSFT, comma D for daily, and then bracket 300, and hit enter. And we're back to our default Microsoft chart. Does that answer your question? Sure, thank you. Okay, we're going to go ahead and jump into chart properties here. Looking at the chart as it stands, this is the default way that a chart comes up. You have a white background with the dots that you see all over the screen. We call that the grid. And the spacing between the bars as well as the thickness of the bars is all a default. If I'm looking at the Advanced Get program all day, this white background starts to play havoc on my eyes. So I like to use a different color for my background. I don't particularly care for this grid that we have on the background. And I like to change some things with the bars and the spacing. So I'll go ahead and show you how to do that here right now. On the far left-hand toolbar, you'll notice an icon that looks like a hand holding a piece of paper. This is the Chart Properties icon. When I select it, it'll bring up the Chart Properties window. Go ahead and put it in the middle so everyone can see it. And on here you'll see that there's an abundance of things that we can change inside the chart. You can change the colors of the bars, the color of the grid, the color of the text. A lot of things dealing with the background of the chart and the price scales. The white space, we'll get into that. All these things can be changed on here. The first of which I like to change is the background. I'll go ahead and select the drop-down menu here next to the chart background, and I'll move it up. And I like this gray that's 2 above the red, and I'll select that. If I hit apply, you'll see the background color change to gray. This white space has to do with the amount of space that you have between the last bar on your chart and the price scale all the way out to the right. I like to increase that as well out to about 25. That way when I draw my Fibonacci or draw a mob or an ellipse that's out into the future, I can see that on my chart as well. I've got enough space to have all those things out there. When I hit apply, you'll see the chart move out to the left, and now we have more space between the last bar and the price scale. Bar type I like to leave as normal, but if you like to use candlestick charts, right there is where you would change to the candlestick chart. Again, that's under bar attributes, under bar type. You just change it to candlestick, and I'll hit apply, and that's what the candlesticks look like. I'm going to go ahead and set it back to normal and hit apply, and that takes me back to a normal bar chart. The thickness has to do with the amount of spacing that you have between each bar. I like to have my thickness at 3. When I hit apply, you see that each bar thickens up, and now there it is setting as 2. The spacing, is what determines the amount of space between each bar. I like to set that to 10, and when applied, you can see that it spreads the bars out in the background. So I like normal bars with a thickness of 3 and a spacing of 10. I told you as well that I don't particularly care for that grid, so I've got that turned off as well. And this trend lines, GAN lines, and fib lines button that you see here, I'll go over a little bit later when we go over the toolbars. The grid, the crosshairs, trend lines, GAN lines, and fib lines, those buttons are all duplicated over here on the left-hand toolbar. beginning with this little grid button right here. And this button is trend lines, scan lines, fib lines, and the crosshairs. I'll go over all those when we go over the toolbars. Now that I have all of these properties set to how I like each chart to look, I want this to be the default for each time I load up a new chart. In the lower right-hand corner, you see a button that is marked Defaults. I'm going to select that button, and you'll see a selection that says Save Current Settings as Default. This same Defaults button in the same Defaults menu you'll find in just about every setting within the program, so it's a good idea to be familiar with this. Once you change some settings or properties of anything in the program, you can select Defaults and then Save Current Settings as Default. Now that I've done that, every time I bring up a new chart, it's going to have these same chart properties on it. I'll go ahead and hit OK, and this is what the chart looks like now that I have those properties applied. Got the gray background, which I find easier on the eyes. The bars are thicker, there's more space between them, and the grid is gone in the background as well. Now that we have the properties set how we'd like them, I'm going to go ahead and load an additional chart. I know a lot of people, when they do their trading, they like to have more than one chart on the screen, whether that be the same symbol on a different time frame. Some people like to have the index from which the stock is located that they're looking at. So I'm going to go ahead, and there's a review. I can go to File and New Chart. I can select Control N, or I can select the New Chart icon from the toolbar. I'll go ahead and do that, and we'll go ahead and load Microsoft on a weekly time frame. So Microsoft is the symbol. We're going to load 300 weekly bars, and I'll go ahead and select Load. So here's my Microsoft weekly chart. Now, you'll notice that the weekly chart is all that we can see. We no longer can see the daily chart. That's where this window menu up here at the top becomes important. When I select the window menu, down at the bottom, it'll list every open window that you have within Advanced Get. And you see that Microsoft Daily is still there, which means the chart is still open in Advanced Get. The weekly chart is just on top of it. A lot of new users get into some trouble here when we talk about multiple charts. Notice I didn't close down the daily chart, so it's still there. If I go ahead and reduce the size of the weekly chart, you'll see our daily chart here behind it. A lot of new users, when they get the program, they continue going to File and New Chart, File and New Chart, File and New Chart to bring up each new chart that they'd like to look at. Eventually, it gets to the point when they open the program, they see 30 or 40 charts flash on their screen before it finally lands on the chart that they were last looking at. That's because they've never closed down a chart in the background and they keep opening up new charts on top of old ones. It's a good idea to maintain a respectable number of charts open within the program. Otherwise, you can see slowing down with the program, and if you're running other applications as well, it'll slow those down as well. So you want to make sure that you keep things tidy in Advanced Get. I'll go ahead and maximize the window chart again. And I can switch back and forth between the weekly and daily chart by just selecting them in this window menu. Go ahead and select Daily. And now the Microsoft Daily chart is to the foreground. And go back to Window and select Weekly, and now the weekly chart is in the foreground. You'll notice that a check mark is placed next to the chart that is in the foreground. If I'd like to look at both of these charts at the same time, I can also use this window menu. Going to Window and Cascade will cascade these windows. If there were more, they would need to go down to the right in a diagonal fashion. I can go to Window and select Tile Horizontally. That'll place one chart over top of the other in a horizontal fashion. Going to Window and Tile Vertically will place the charts side by side. And if I select Clear Screen, it'll close all of the open charts that I have in the Advanced Get window right now. We'll go ahead and leave it here as side by side. This is tiled vertically. Now that we have two charts open, I can show you something else that we can do with the Quick Load feature. We're looking at Microsoft right now. I'm going to go ahead and type AOL again. And if I were to hit enter right now, it would change only one of these charts to AOL, whichever one was highlighted at that given time. It happened to be the one on the left in this instance. However, I can type AOL and do a G as in global. In other words, I want to globally change all of the charts within Advanced Get to AOL. When I hit the enter button, you'll notice that both charts have now changed to AOL. They also maintain the period for which they were entered. The chart on the left is still the weekly chart, and the chart on the right is still the daily chart. I can change that back by just going to MSFT, G as in global, and hit enter. And now both of my charts are back to Microsoft. As a side note, you can see which chart is the active chart within Advanced Get by the title bar. Right now, Microsoft Daily Chart on the right, the title bar is highlighted in blue. This is now the active chart. Anything I do concerning a chart will affect just this chart on the right. If I wanted to turn the grid back on, with this chart highlighted on the right, I can go over to this grid button and turn it on, and you'll notice that it turns on to the chart on the right, because it's the one that's highlighted. Press the grid button again and it'll turn it off. If I highlight the chart on the left, I can select the grid button, and that turns the on chart on the left. Hitting the grid button again turns it off. So that's loading the multiple charts and also changing all charts using the quick load. If I go ahead and open up a new chart again, in this Issues window, you'll notice that there's a place for Change All Charts. This is the same effect with this Change All Charts as doing the G in the quick load. I'll go ahead and place a check mark next to Change All Charts, and we'll put the symbol in as IBM, and this one we'll put in as monthly. And when I hit load, it's going to change all three of these charts now to IBM. Hit load, and there we have on top an IBM monthly chart. We still have our daily chart here to the right and the weekly chart here to the left. So that change all charts that you see in the Issues window has the same effect as the G in the quick load for change all charts. Go ahead and cancel out of the issue window and close down that chart, so we're working with just two once again. And now we'll move on to the toolbars. Before we do, let's go ahead and check to see if anybody has any questions. Somebody's asking, what is the use of the independent of pages? We'll get to the usage of that here in a little bit when we get to the last session where we talk about saving pages. That won't be in this session that we do here today, but we'll get into saving pages here in another session. Essentially what that does is if you have any chart mark, I'm sorry, it's not even in this window. It's in a different window. Like I said, we'll go over that again in another session when we go over saving pages as well as in the search. Does anybody who's in the conference call have any questions on loading multiple charts or changing all charts? All right, we'll go ahead and talk about the toolbars. Once you load a chart in Advanced Get, you'll notice that all of the available toolbars appear to the outer edge of the chart. Any study or indicator can be loaded from these toolbars. There's a toolbar on the left-hand side up toward the top that says Study. You can also use this instead of all these toolbars. All of the toolbar buttons that can apply a study or indicator to the chart are also available in this drop-down menu from selecting Studies. In addition to that, you can also right-click on your chart, and you'll notice that Studies is a selection in there as well, and you have the same menu available from right-clicking on the chart as well. So it's three different ways you can load Studies in the program. You'll notice on my chart here that the toolbar on the left-hand side at the bottom seems to extend off of the bottom of my chart. So I can't see all of the toolbars that are available in there. That's because I've changed my resolution on my monitor for this presentation, and not all the toolbar buttons are able to be seen. Some of you may have that problem as well, and there's a couple of things that you can do about that. All of the toolbars in Advanced Get are fully customizable. we can not only change the amount of buttons that are on each toolbar, we can just move the toolbars as well. I'm going to go ahead and take my cursor to this bottom left-hand toolbar selection. The top button on here says Auto GAN, and above that is a little bit of gray space before you come to Align. That's a dividing line between the lower left hand and the lower upper, the left upper toolbar. If I take my left mouse button and place my cursor in there and hold my left mouse button down, I can drag that toolbar out from that section down there. Doing the same thing, I can drag it right back again. And all I'm doing is placing my mouse cursor between that last toolbar button and that dividing line. And I can hold my left mouse button down and drag it out to the middle of the chart. I can do that with all of these toolbars. Go ahead and drag them all out here into the middle. And you'll notice that I actually have more room now for the charts to be larger. I can go to Window and Tile Vertically, and now the chart is actually a little bit larger. There are some out there that are very particular about the amount of space that their charts can fill up. So that's a handy feature for them to be able to do that. You can place these toolbars anywhere you like on the screen. If you have another monitor hooked up to the same computer, you can actually drag these toolbars off of this monitor and onto another. Something else you can do with these toolbars is you can resize them once you've drug them out from the edge. I like to put mine in little boxes so they're a little bit easier to maintain. And you can place them anywhere you like on the screen. Something else you can do is just turn them off completely. So if you're not particular to having toolbars on your screen, you can turn them off altogether, and you can just right-click and go to Studies to access any of the studies that you have. I've shown a lot of people how to do that and gotten phone calls a week later with them desperate to have their toolbars back, and they're not sure how to do it. So we'll go ahead and show you how to do that here right now. Going up to the View menu, there's several selections above Dock All Toolbars. And you notice that only Status Bar right now, which is what shows the two green lights in the lower right-hand corner, is checked. If I go ahead and left-click on Toolbar, the Advanced Get Toolbar comes back. And go to View and Chart Tools, and the Chart Tools toolbar comes back. We'll go ahead and do the same for the rest of them here. And all of our toolbars are now back. So we have all of our toolbars back. If you want to turn any of them off, you can also do the same thing from the View menu. I'll go ahead and turn off the period toolbars. In addition to wanting to get the toolbars turned on again, they'd also like to have them go back to their default location. That's done with the very next selection in the View menu, which is Dock All Toolbars. I'll go ahead and turn period toolbars back on, and then select View and Dock All Toolbars, and you'll notice that all the toolbars go right back to their default location. So that's how you can move the toolbars around on your screen. You can turn them off, you know how to turn them back on again, and you know how to get them all back to their default location. Now, if you don't like to have them all on the edges, you'd like to have them all up at the top, you can also drag all the toolbars up to the top and arrange them however you'd like to. So there's several things that you can do with the toolbars there in Advanced Get. I'll go ahead and go to View and Dock All Toolbars. We had a gentleman call up who was really having a difficult time with the stochastics. For some reason, he had to apply a stochastic to every chart that he had. It was like a crutch to him, and he wanted us to write a special version of the program for him that did not have stochastics in it. Now, we weren't going to be able to do that just for one request, but what we do have in the program is the ability to turn some of these toolbar buttons off. For instance, here's the Study Toolbar button across the top, and I'm going to find the left-handmost button and go into that space again between the last button and the dividing line between that and the next toolbar. If I click with my right mouse button, that's the right mouse button this time, it's going to bring up a Customize Toolbar menu. On the right-hand side in this menu are all the toolbars that are included currently on that toolbar selection. If I don't use the ADX-VMI, I can highlight that button on the right-hand side and select the Remove button. That places the ADX-VMI button over to the Available selection on the left, but eliminates it from the toolbar up here at the top. I'll go ahead and just remove several of them here. We'll get rid of Cycles, Elliott Trigger, don't use the JTI, don't use On-Balance Volume or Open Interest, not keen on RSI. For his sake, we'll remove the Stochastics, Time Clusters, and Money Flow. And you'll notice that now all I have in that toolbar selection is my MACD, the oscillator, and the volume. And you can see that that now takes up much less space on my screen. I can do the same with this toolbar down in the lower left-hand corner. I can take away the auto GAN angles, take away the bias reversal, the Bollinger Bands, delta turning points, Donchian channels, take away the price clusters, the seasonals, TJ's Web, the trade profile. And now I can see all of the toolbar buttons that are available that I use. I've eliminated wasted space by getting rid of the toolbar buttons that I don't use, and I've also solved my problem of not being able to see all the toolbar buttons on this toolbar. I can then take it up here and just drop it there where I have enough space to place it in there. So you can customize all of these toolbars and place them where you want to, and be able to do pretty much anything you want to with them. And again, we can get these back to how we wanted them, or how they were originally. I'll right-click, get the Customize Toolbar menu up here, and select the Reset button. That places all the buttons back where they were. I can do the same for toolbar up at the top. I'll reset and hit close, and I have all of my toolbar buttons back again. So we can move the toolbars around, we can resize the floating toolbars, we can close down the toolbars, we can turn them back on again, we can place them all back to their original location, we can remove buttons from each toolbar, and we know how to get all the buttons back again to each toolbar. Does anybody have any questions on customizing those toolbars? I'll go ahead and switch back over to the chat. And somebody's asking a question here that says, when I add or remove buttons in the toolbar, the modifications are lost when I close and restart the program. Can I fix this? I'm running Windows 2000 Pro. That is actually a bug that was in a release of the software prior to the current release. We're getting ready to release a new version here in the next couple of weeks that will take care of that problem. So the customized toolbars will be fixed in the next release, and again, that should be out here in the next couple of weeks. So it's not a problem specific to your computer. That's a problem that was in the last release version of the program that we sent out. So yes, that will be fixed. Does anyone in the teleconference have any questions at this point? All right. Well, we have multiple charts on the screen. We've gone over that. We've gone over all the toolbars. Now it's time to start applying some studies to these charts. I'm going to go ahead and select the IBM daily chart, and I'll select the Maximize button to make the chart larger on the screen, and we'll just begin applying some studies to the chart. If you remember, you can use the Study toolbar button over here on the left. You can right-click on your screen and select Study, or we can just go ahead and use these toolbar buttons from around the edges. I'm going to go ahead and use the toolbar on the left and select Elliott Wave. And when I left-click on it, it turns on the Elliott waves on my chart. Go ahead and move these together. There's not a whole lot on this chart that you can see, so I'll go ahead and change it to AOL. And there's some more Elliott waves that you can see on the chart. I'll go ahead and turn on an oscillator. There's an OSC button at the top here. And there's one 535 oscillator. I'm also going to put on two other oscillators, so we can turn on the 517 and the 1070 oscillator as well. Right now all three say 535. I'll show you how to change that momentarily. Now we'll put a stochastic on the chart since we were talking about that. And for good measure, I'll select the study button and select XTL, which will change our bar colors to blue, red, and black. Now this doesn't look real usable here, what we see now, but I've got it in this condition right now so that I can show you a couple of things. Any of these studies that are listed down in the bottom in their own box, you're able to change the properties of each one. What you need to do to change the properties of that study is right-click in the body of that study. I right-clicked in the top oscillator here and select Properties. In this Properties menu, you can change the properties of that individual study as it's applied to the chart. I'm going to select the Extension button, which will change the oscillator from 535 to 517, and I'll go ahead and change the color of that to red as well and hit OK. And now I have a 517 oscillator. I'll leave the second oscillator as 535 and go down to the third oscillator, click with my right mouse button, and select Properties. And this time I'll select alternate 3, which changes it to a 1070 oscillator. And I'll change the color of this one to green and hit OK. Don't worry if you're not familiar with the 517, 535, and 1070 oscillators. I'll go over these in a later session. If you'd like to change your stochastic, you can do the same thing. I'll right-click in the stochastic, go to Properties, and some people prefer a 2133 stochastic over a 1433. I can change it there and hit OK, and I now have a 2133 stochastic. So I have my 4 separate studies down here at the bottom, but they're taking up about half of my screen. I'd like to get them condensed to where I can see more of my bar chart. To do that, I can right-click on the chart and go down and select Stack Studies. What that does is it places the studies on top of one another to where you only view one at a time. But in the lower left-hand corner, you'll see a tab for each one of the studies. I can go from the 517 to left-clicking on the 535 tab to view the 535 oscillator, go to the 1070, and to the stochastic. You can do that with as many studies as you want. You can just stack them all on top of one another. If you'd like to get them back to their view where you can see them all at once, you just right-click and select Tile Studies, and that spreads them all out again to where you can see them all at once. I prefer going and stacking the studies so that you can see them all. There's a large dividing line here between the studies and the bar chart itself. You can take your mouse cursor there and hold your left mouse button down and drag that line up and down to resize the window that the studies are displayed in. Now that we have all these studies to the chart, let's go over some of the drawing tools over here on the right-hand toolbar. We've got a pencil, which allows you to draw lines and arrows on the chart. You can right-click on that pencil tool to change what it is you're drawing. If I want to just draw a line segment, I can select Segment and hit OK, and do 2 mouse clicks for that. First mouse click was at the beginning of the line. Second mouse click was at the end of the line. A segment line has a definitive beginning and a definitive end. I'll go back and right-click and go to Array, make my first mouse click, and then the second mouse click. Array has a definitive beginning and an indefinite end. Going on down, the extended line has an indefinite beginning and an indefinite end. And horizontal and vertical are pretty self-explanatory. Horizontal is just a horizontal line. Vertical is just a vertical line on the chart. And the arrow is exactly that. I've drawn one on here already. It's just like a segment with a definitive beginning and definitive end. The only difference is there's an arrow on the end where you make your second mouse click. So those are all the tools that you can do with this pencil tool in the upper right-hand corner. And again, I changed the properties of that tool by clicking on it with my right mouse button. You'll notice in the lower right-hand corner of it, that same defaults button is there. I can select that, and again, select Save Current Settings as default. You can change the color of your lines, as well as the width of the lines. All of these tools in this right-hand toolbar can be right-clicked on to change the properties. We're not going to go over the properties of each one at this time. All of these are covered in later sessions. I will go over a couple down here at the bottom. The one that looks like a pencil eraser is just that. It's an eraser tool, and I can left-click on any line drawn on the chart, and it'll erase that line. Just below the eraser is the Move toolbar button. If I select that and click on any line on the chart, I can move that line to a different location on the chart. Just below the Move tool is the Copy tool. If you want to make a parallel line for this extended line here, I can left-click on it using the Copy tool, and left-click on the chart again and apply that copy of that line to the chart. And you can copy a line as many times as you like. Above those tools is the letter A. That's how we can draw text on the chart. If I select that and left-click anywhere on the chart, I can go ahead and type something and hit OK, and I can apply that to my chart. These same tools down here apply to the text as well. I can move the text around on the chart. I can copy the text, and I can use the eraser tool to erase the text as well. If you have a lot of lines on your chart, it can be tedious to go ahead and left-click on each line. So what you can do is right-click on your chart, go to Delete, and select All Lines, and that'll delete all the lines drawn on your chart all at once, including any text written on your chart as well. That's some of the toolbar buttons here on the right. Again, like I said, we'll go over these in depth in a later session. I just wanted to show you some of the functionality of those. Above here in the upper right-hand corner is our Period toolbar. You can use this instead of the Quick Load to change time frames. We're currently looking at a daily chart. I can select 60-minute to change to 60-minute, go to weekly or monthly, go back to daily once again. So now that I have my chart set up how I like it, we'll just assume that I like all of my charts to have the LEAs on, the XTL on, the 3 oscillators, and the stochastic. If I want this same template to be used for all of the charts that I bring up in the future, I can set this setup up as a chart template. To do that, I just need to right-click on my chart and select Templates. You'll see in here that I've done this a few times in the past. We'll go ahead and click in the name box so that we can give this a name, and we'll call this September WebEx template. So I'm calling it the September WebEx template, and I'll hit the Save button. I can go to File and New Chart, and you'll notice in the lower right-hand corner of the issue window, it says Apply Template. If I want to apply a template that I've previously saved, like we just did, I just need to select Apply Template, and if you go to the drop-down menu, you'll see September WebEx template is one of the selections. Some of the previous templates that I've created have been in there as well. Seminar in Chicago, seminar in Cleveland, one in Fort Lauderdale. We use the September template, and when I hit the load button, the chart comes up with all of those studies and indicators already on the chart. Let me go ahead and go to Window, Tile horizontally. No, that doesn't look too good. We'll go to Tile vertically. And here's 2 charts with the template applied to it, one that we created the template on, one that we loaded as a new chart applying the template. But our weekly chart over here to the right still doesn't have that template applied to it. If you have a chart already loaded that you'd like to apply the template to, you can right-click on the chart, go to Templates, select September WebEx template, and hit Load. And now that same template with all the same studies and indicators is now applied to that chart as well. So we have all 3 of these charts now with that template applied to it. Go ahead and maximize that chart, and that's what it looks like with all of those applied. Are there any questions on templates? If you change the template and want to apply it to all the open windows, there's no command to have it apply to all at once. But what you can do, I'll go ahead and right-click and go to Templates, and I can select, for instance, Chicago template that I created in Chicago, and hit Load, and it'll put that template on for that chart. Right, yeah, it has to be done individually at this point. I've talked to the programmers about doing something like apply to all. That's something that probably will be in there in the future, but is not in there yet. Let me hop over to the chat here. Someone has asked, can you put the 3 oscillators in one chart with different colors? And I think I did that already. Let me read that again. Can you put the 3 oscillators in one chart with different colors? Yeah, I believe I did that, unless they're asking if you can have the background of each of the oscillators be different. There's not a way to do that, but you can change the color of the oscillator. And again, I'll go ahead and right-click on one of the oscillators, go to Properties, and you'll see the selection for color right in there. And that green looks a little hideous, so let's go ahead and change it to a darker green, and that looks a little better on the chart. So yeah, you can have different colors for the oscillators. And there's no more questions in the chat area. Does anybody who's in the conference call have any additional questions? I'll go ahead and open it up now to questions on anything that we've covered today, as we've gotten through our syllabus at this time, so I can go ahead and answer any questions that anyone has. All right. Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and do saving a page. That'll be kind of a lead-in to the next session that we do. If we go up to the window menu, you'll notice that we have 3 charts loaded. Again, at the bottom of the window menu, we have all of the open windows that we have in Advanced Get. So I have an AOL daily chart, an IBM weekly chart, and an IBM monthly chart. I'll go ahead and bring the AOL daily chart to the foreground, and you'll notice that it's some wacky template that I created at a seminar just for demonstration purposes applied to it. And if I wanted to take all 3 of these charts together and save them to be looked at a later date, I would want to save them in what we call a page. A page is one or more charts or collection of charts or collection of charts and quote screens or anything else that you have open in Advanced Get that you would like to save for reference at a later date. In the upper left-hand corner of the Get window, you'll see a selection that says Page. I'll go ahead and select Page, and then Save Page As, and a Save As window will open up. Now, I normally like to do this demonstration with a blank window here, and I'll do that in the next session that we do for this. But you'll notice on the left-hand side is a selection that says Pages. This is actually a folder on your hard drive where all of your saved pages are going to be created. Underneath Pages on the left-hand side, you'll notice a bunch of other listings. These are actually folders that I've created inside of my main Pages folder. I've done that by having Pages highlighted and selecting the Create New Folder icon in the lower left-hand corner. I'm not going to go over that now. I'll go over that in a later date. Just note that whatever you have highlighted on the left-hand side is where your new page is going to be saved when you select Save Page As. So I've selected Save Page As, I've got Pages highlighted, and I'm going to select the Auto Title button over here in the middle. And up here at the top, it goes ahead and puts a title in there for me. And I can select the Save button. You'll notice down here at the bottom, in our status bar, it says Page 9, AOL Daily, IBM Monthly. That's the name of this page that we just have saved. I can go to Window and Clear Screen, and now I have nothing loaded in there. But I'm not worried about that. I know I can get the information back for what we just looked at by going to Page and Load Page. And you'll see there's page number 9, AOL Daily, IBM Monthly. And I hit the Load button, And we're right back to where we started. And we've got all three of our charts in the selection there. Somebody had asked earlier what independent pages was. I'll go ahead and cover that real quickly since we have the time. This is my AOL daily chart. I'm going to go into the properties for that chart and place a check mark next to independent of pages. And I'll hit OK. What that means is now this AOL daily chart will be unaffected by anything I do with the pages. If I go to Window and Clear Screen, the AOL daily chart stayed on there, but you'll notice that the other two charts in the background are gone. I'm going to go ahead and close that, and I'll load my page again. And now we're back. I'll go ahead and make the AOL daily chart independent of pages again. And now I'll go to Page and Save Page As. And when I hit Auto Title, you'll notice that AOL Daily is not placed in the Auto Title. Because the AOL Daily chart is marked as independent of pages, this Save As Page menu is ignoring that AOL Daily chart. This one's going to be page number 10. I'll hit Save. And then I'll go back and I'll load page number 9. Now before I do that, let's go ahead and clear the screen. I'll go to Page, Load Page, and if I load page number 9, the AOL Daily chart comes up. This was before we marked it as independent of pages. But if I clear the screen and go to Page and load page number 10, this is the one on which we had selected independent of pages for the AOL chart. When I load that, there's no AOL chart in that page. So independent of pages makes that chart to be ignored by anything done with the Pages menu. So that's how to save a page, how to load a page, and explanation of independent of pages. Like I said, we'll go over pages again a little bit more in depth in a later session. But right now I'm going to go ahead and make sure we don't have any other questions in the chat. And there are none. Does anybody who's involved in the conference call have any additional questions? Okay, well that's going to end our session here for today then. For those of you who are at the San Francisco seminar this past weekend, note that tomorrow afternoon Jay Frank is going to be doing his presentation for new eSignal users, and I'll be back here again on Friday to do the presentation for new eSignal users of the Advanced Get Studies. That's more geared toward the real-time users.